Kepada para hadirin sekalian, kami persilakan untuk berdiri karena kita akan sama-sama menyanyikan lagu kebangsaan Indonesia Raya. Sama-sama saksikan persembahan spesial dari choir Speranza, Paduan Suara Mahasiswa Perguruan Tinggi Jakarta.
There's no need to cry. In this place you feel there's no hurt or sorrow. There are ways to get there. make a little space, make a better place. Fill the world, make it a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. There are people dying. If you care enough for the living, make a better place for you and for me.
If you want to know why, there's a love that cannot lie. Love is strong, it only cares of joyful giving.
If we try, we shall see. In this place we cannot feel fear or death. We stop existing and start living. Where it feels that always, if you love's enough for us growing, make a better world, make a better world. Heal the world,
Make it a better place for you and for me and the entire human race.
there are people dying.
If you care enough for the living, make a better place for you and for me. And the dream we were conceiving will reveal a joyful face. And the world we once believing will shine again in grace.
Then why do we keep dreading life on this earth, crucify its soul? Though it's plain to see this world is heavenly, because God
So high, let our spirits never die. In my heart, I feel you are all my brothers. Create a world with no fear. Together we cry happy tears. See the nations turn their sword into plowshares.
we could really get there if we care enough for the living. Make a little space, make a better place.
The world, make it a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. There are people dying. If you care enough for the living, make a better place for you and for me. Heal the world.
صاحب المعالي وزير الشؤون الدينية لجمهورية إندونيسيا أو من ينوب عنه سعادة الأستاذ الدكتور قمر الدين أمين الأمين العام للوزارة. أهلا أستاذ. صاحب المعالي وزير المالية لجمهورية إندونيسيا أو من ينوب عنه، صاحب المعالي وزير البيئة والغابات أو من ينوب عنه، صاحب السعادة السيد تشاندرا رحمانشاه نائب عمدة مدينة ديبوك جاوا الغربية، وصاحب الفضيلة رئيس الجامعة الإسلامية العالمية الإندونيسية الأستاذ الدكتور جمهري معروف ووكلاؤه، صاحب السعادة المدير العام للتعليم الإسلامي بوزارة الشؤون الدينية الأستاذ الدكتور أمين سويتنو، صاحب السعادة الأستاذ الدكتور محمد أرسكال سليم السكرتير بالمديرية العامة للتعليم الإسلامي بوزارة الشؤون الدينية. والصاحب السعادة الأستاذ الدكتور سهيران مدير التعليم العالي الإسلامي بوزارة الشؤون الدينية، أصحاب السعادة المسؤولين بوزارة الشؤون الدينية، أصحاب السعادة رؤساء الجامعات، السادة الباحثين والأكاديميين المحترمين، السادة الضيوف والحضور، كل باسمه ولقبه. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. يسرنا اليوم أن نرحب بكم أصحاب المعالي والفضيلة والسعادة، السادة الحضور والضيوف، في رحاب جامعتنا الميمونة الجامعة الإسلامية العالمية الإندونيسية في مناسبة حفل الافتتاح للمؤتمر الدولي السنوي حول الإسلام والعلم والمجتمع، المعروف اختصاراً بAIcis بلس لعام 2025، والتي تنظمه وزارة الشؤون الدينية لجمهورية إندونيسيا بالتعاون مع الجامعة الإسلامية العالمية الإندونيسية كالجامعة المضيفة. ويحمل المؤتمر Aicis في هذا العام شعاراً الإسلام والإيكوتيولوجيا والتحول التكنولوجي، ابتكارات متعددة التخصصات من أجل مستقبل عادل ومستدام.
Esteemed guests, distinguished scholars, and honored attendees, it is with profound privilege that I, Aicia,
And I, Rivaldi,
welcome you to the 24th Annual International Conference on Islam, Science, and Society, Aicis Plus 2025. Today we gather here in a spirit of unity, wisdom, and aspiration to embark on a journey of intellectual and spiritual enrichment. Let us commence this momentous occasion with elegance and reverence. Ladies and gentlemen, we have arrived at the pinnacle of today's ceremony.
مع تلاوة آيات الذكر الحكيم يتلوها على مسامعنا الأستاذ شمسوري فردوس، فليتفضلوا مشكورا.
To invoke divine blessings upon this gathering, we invite the esteemed Ustad Shamsuri Firdaus to grace us with a recitation from the Holy Quran, followed by its translation.
بسم الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار واختلاف الليل والنهار لآيات لأولي الألباب. الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا سبحانك ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا سبحانك فقنا عذاب النار. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والسماء رفعها ووضع الميزان والسماء رفعها ووضع الميزان ألا تطغوا في الميزان وأقيموا الوزن بالقسط ولا تخسروا الميزان. صدق الله العلي العظيم. عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
صدق الله العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين والشاكرين مع دعوات خاشعة يتلوها على مسامعنا الأستاذ الدكتور إلياس مروال.
To seek blessings and guidance for the success of this event, we invite Dr. Kiai Haji Ilyas Marwal to lead us in prayer.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله لمن خاطب العقول بآياته ونور القلوب بنفحاته. اللهم إنا نسألك أن تصلي على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه الذين أورث العلم والرحمة. يا رب إليك نرفع أنظارنا وأفكارنا، فأنت نور العقول والملهم البصائر، ومن نفحاتك تتفتح أزهار المعرفة، وبإذنك يستبين السير في لجج الكون والأسراره. إلهنا وها نحن اليوم قد وقفنا ببابك والتجأنا بجانبك ووقفنا على أعتابك مستغيثين. يا رب، يا رب الكون والنور، نفتح في رهاب هذا المؤتمر صفحات كتابك المسطور، ونطلق أبصار قلوبنا في كتابك المنظور، لنرى في كليهما حكمتك ونورك يا رب النور. نحاول أن نسمع صوتك في حمس العلم، ونرى وجهك في مجال التقدم والاختراع. فسبحانك ما أجمل أن يلتقي الإيمان بالعلم. اللهم علمنا فقه التسخير لا فقه التدمير، وهب لنا علما يعمر ولا يدمر، وتقنية تعين ولا تستعبد، وروحا تلهم ولا تغفل، وفكرا يحفظ التوازن بين الإنسان والكون، وفهما يجمع بين آيات الكتاب وآيات الكون، لنكون خلفاء في الأرض كما أردت. نحيي الحياة بالعلم ونزكي العلم بالإيمان. اللهم بارك في العلماء والباحثين والمفكرين الحاضرين، واجعل كلماتهم نورا وأعمالهم ظهرا ونواياهم صدقا. ربنا تقبل منا هذا الدعاء إنك أنت السميع العليم. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن سار على نوره إلى يوم الدين. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
آمين آمين يا رب العالمين. التقرير يقوم بإلقائه رئيس الجامعة الإسلامية العالمية الأندونيسية فضيلة الأستاذ الدكتور جمهاري معروف.
We now invite the distinguished rector of Universitas Islam International Indonesia, Professor Dr. Jamhari, to deliver the official report for Aicis Plus 2025.
Distinguished guests, Secretary General of the Ministry of Religious Affairs, Professor Komarudin Amin, Director General of Islamic Education, Professor Suyitno, all excellent and officials within the Ministry of Religious Affairs, and my beloved, the members of the University Board of Trustees, Professor Komarudin Hidayat, and actually he is the real rector. I am only his junior. Secretary of the Director General of Islamic Education, Professor Askar Salim, Director of Islamic Higher Education, Professor Sahiron, Deputy Mayor of Depok, esteemed Rector of Islamic State Universities, honored speakers, resource person, colleague, and participants. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan, rahayu dan salam sehat buat kita semua. Good morning. It is a profound honor and privilege for me as Director of Universitas Islam International Indonesia to welcome all of you to our beloved campus for the opening ceremony of Aicis Plus 2025. To our international speakers from across the globe, on behalf of the entire university and the Aicis committee, I extend a warm welcome. Selamat datang di Indonesia. And also, selamat datang to our university, a home of Islam Wasatiyah. I would like to begin my remarks by commemorating two important national days celebrated this October. First, Selamat Hari Santri, Happy Santri Day. May Indonesian Santri continue to play a vital role in advancing our nation. Second, I wish to commemorate Sumpah Pemuda or Youth Pledge Day as the spirit and determination of Indonesian youth in uniting the nation laid the foundation of our national. Next, I would like to extend our deepest gratitude and congratulations to the Ministry of Religious Affairs under the visionary leadership of the Honorable Minister of Religious Affairs, Professor Dr. Nasaruddin Umar. Your unwavering support has been instrumental transforming Aicis into the dynamic Aicis Plus we launched today. The evaluation is a testament to your commitment to advancing Islamic scholarship on the global stage. For 24 years, Aicis has been Indonesia's premier academic forum on Islam. Now we proudly develop a new chapter. This plus signifies a rebirth, a deliberate expansion to connect Islamic scholarships with the most pressing global challenges under the powerful theme, Islam, eco-theology, and technological transformation, multidisciplinary innovation for an equitable and sustainable future. I am delighted to report on the outstanding state of Aicis Plus 2024. One, global engagement. This is a truly global conversation. We received a staggering 2,434 research abstracts from scholars in 30 countries. After a rigorous review process, 345 top-tier papers have been selected for presentations. Second, a world-class assembly of speakers. We are honored to host 12 leading international experts, including Faris Nur, Shahram Abrizadeh, Stephen Lacroix, Zulfikar Amir, Fajar Himawan, Ariana Kisa, Muhammad Ahmad Ibrahim Ajaz, and Ayman Shihadeh. Also, I would like to specially recognize the outstanding contributions of our women scholars, such as Ibu Mewita Budi Harsana, Professor Eka Sri Mulyani, and Hamirullah binti Abdul Latif. Third, a rich dialogue. Over the next 3 days, this conference will be a symbol of intellectual discovery. The program features 2 keynote speeches and 2 plenary sessions to set the strategic direction, 68 parallel sessions, and 24 invited journal panels for deep and meaningful discussion. 2 special sessions by Directorate of Higher Education, the Ministry of Religious Affairs, and a special cell from Sasakawa Peace Foundation from Japan. A rector forum representing 58 Islamic State universities and colleagues across Indonesia. And lastly, vibrant event including Madrasah Education Expo, a book fair, a halal culinary festival, and cultural event to celebrate our diversity. Fourth, hosting Aicis Plus is a manifestation of our university's course mission. As a graduate level university, built for these very purposes, we serve as a nexus where tradition and innovation meet. The conversation here on eco-theology, technology, and equity are the conversations that will shape our collective future. And Pak Sekjen, I think our university is not only good in academic, we are also good in sport. Our football team is a champion league in Jakarta because 10 out of 11 players are African students. Fifth, Islamic studies in Indonesia have developed significantly and have become a reference for Islamic studies globally. What we need to develop now is how Islamic universities can also advance science. This is precisely the mission of Aicis Plus, to bridge this gap, and it is the very reason we are all here today. At our university, we are committed to our mission, advancing Islamic civilization. We firmly believe this cannot be achieved without also advancing science and technology. It is our sincere hope that one day, a scientist from our universities in Indonesia will be honored with a Nobel Prize in the sciences. In conclusion, the stage is set for a landmark event. The report I gave you today is one of the global participants, academic excellence, and immense potential. This is more than a conference. It is a shared journey, a legacy of 24 years reborn as Aicis Plus toward a more fair, green, and hopeful world. And last but not least, on behalf of us all, I wish to extend our deepest gratitude to steering committee and organizing committee. Your incredible dedication and meticulous effort have prepared this Aicis Plus 24 hours to the highest standard, making this conference possible. Thank you for your experience and services, and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
To extend our deepest appreciation to Professor Dr. Jamhari for his report and visionary leadership in shaping this prestigious conference. It is our honor to invite the Director General of Islamic Education from the Ministry of Religious Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia to deliver his address. Please accord a warm welcome to Professor Dr. Haji Amin Suyitno.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asrafil anbiya wal mursalin Sayyidina wa Maulana Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in ma ba'du. May peace and prosperity be upon us all, Your Excellencies, the Minister of Religious Affairs of Republic of Indonesia, Professor Nasdin Umar, on behalf by the Secretary of General, Prof. Kamaruddin, and then the Rector of Indonesian International Islamic University, Prof. Jamhari, and then distinguished Rector of Higher Islamic Education, include University, Institute, and Sekolah Tinggi, and then Director of Higher Islamic Education, Pak Soiron, of course, Secretary of Director General of Islamic Education, Pak Arskal, and the first Rector, UIII, Pak Kamar. Now he is a member of Board of Trustee in Islamic University. And then the Deputy Mayor of Depok, the representative, and all Eselon 1 official. Welcome from Pak Abu Rahmat, and then Pak Prof. Suhaja, and then Prof. Supriyadi, and of course, Pak Ali Ramdhani, and all director from Islamic Education, and of course, some speakers, participants, ladies and gentlemen. First and foremost, let us to express our praise and gratitude to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala for His mercy and blessing which all us together and blessed morning to officially open the annual international conference on Islam, Science and Society we call Aicis Plus. Why we call Aicis Plus? There are many reasons. The first, as we know that Aicis just talk in Islamic studies only from the first until 2024, until 2024. Just explore, just present about Islamic studies. Starting from now, starting from today, we will explore about society, science, and another field in Islamic studies. So, the plus, we can transformation by adopting the new idea. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme of this conference as in the board, we talk about transformation. We talk about mandatoring from president, we call Astacita, especially is our strategic initiative bring social science and science to front contemporary Islamic discourse. It is very important issues. And secondly, we talk about eco-theology. This is Asta protest from the Ministry of Religious Affairs, especially from Prof. Nasruddin Umar. And then, as we know, just Pak Rector say, we have expo about the research from senior high school, we call madrasah, Insan Cendekia. As we know, madrasah Insan Cendekia is the excellent madrasah. The excellent madrasah because there is a specific program about research and about some math. Of course, Pak Sekjen will visit about Expo in this conference. Another issues, of course, we talk about how to combine between Islamic studies and natural studies and social studies. The question is, what different from medical program in Islamic university and in the public university? This question will answer in this conference by using discuss and of course by using visit in Expo. So this conference will combine between concept in dialogue, in discussing, and then we can see directly with Expo, because the Expo will demonstrate about the result of the research, all taught, senior high school, and of course from Islamic University. Ladies and gentlemen, according to me, this conference is the real international conference. Why? Because more than 31 countries involved in this conference. Before, we have just maybe 15 countries. So this is, I call, the real international conference. According to Pak Arskal, not only international, but also the 5 continental conference, because include America, include Asia, include Australia, of course, Indonesia. About articles, more than 2,434 articles selected, and just 230 articles will present in this conference. So very, very selected. We can applaud about this because very, very selected. Of course, thanks for especially steering committee, organizing committee, because you have do very, very good job, especially Pak Khaidir as Secretary of University. Thanks for your work team, because it is very, very grateful for Islamic education. Ladies and gentlemen, if we talk about eco-theology, as Pak Menteri says every time, every day, now we face destruction about nature. So according Pak Menteri, we have to reformulate about human relation by Jilid 2. There is God, nature, and natural. The God is the source of the knowledge, the source about many things, and then relation with human, and then relation with natural. So combine between God, natural, and science, this is we call human relation Jilid 2. According to me, we of course will discuss about this. Including on behalf of the organizing committee, thank you very much. Thank you for Pak Rector, thank you for all. And then finally, I hope the Secretary General open this conference officially. I give you short pantun. You can say cakep, aura kasih, santun, dan ayu. Terima kasih, hatur nuwun, dan thank you. Wallahul muwaffiq ila aqwamit thariq. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
أوكي. شكرا لسعادة الأستاذ الدكتور أمين السيدنو على كلماته الطيبة والجياشة والتي تحمل في طياتها الأمل الكبير في نجاح هذا المؤتمر وازدهار مستقبل أمتنا الإسلامية والإنسانية قاطبة.
There is unwavering commitment to advancing Islamic education. And now, let's us watch a video presentation introducing Aicis Plus 2025, highlighting the vision, mission, and key themes of this year's conference.
Welcome to a special moment in Islamic scholarship, hosted by Universitas Islam International Indonesia, IIIU, in Depok, West Java. The Ministry of Religious Affairs proudly presents Aicis Plus 2025, the newly refreshed annual international conference on Islam, science, and society. Now in its 24th year, this is Indonesia's biggest academic event and the region's top forum for ideas on Islam and the modern world. This year's theme, Islam, Eco-Theology, and Technological Transformation, multidisciplinary innovations for an equitable and sustainable future. A truly global conversation. We received 2,434 research abstracts from 31 countries around the world. This shows how much the world cares about building a better future through faith, science, and society. Joining us are 12 leading experts from around the world. They come from the UAE, USA, UK, France, Australia, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Singapore. The opening ceremony will be graced by the presence of the Minister of Religious Affairs, Republic of Indonesia, the Secretary General of the Ministry of Religious Affairs, the Director General of Islamic Education, the Secretary to the Director General of Islamic Education, the Rector of IIIU. From October 29th to 31st, here's what to expect. 2 keynote speeches and 2 plenary sessions, 68 parallel sessions, open to all, plus 24 invited journal panels, special dictus session on Islamic higher education, Sasakawa Peace Foundation session on peace and conflict, side events, Madrasah Education and Science Expo, book fair and new book launches, Halal and International Culinary Festival, Islamic Higher Education Expo, talk shows and cultural events celebrating Indonesia's diversity, plus many chances to meet and network with scholars and friends from around the world. Over the years, Aicis has brought together Indonesia's 58 Islamic universities and colleges to advance knowledge and faith. Now, in 2025, we introduced Aicis Plus, a fresh chapter that builds on the past and looks to the future, connecting Islam, science, and society. It represents a major step forward in Islamic scholarship, becoming the most selective conference in its history. With the launch of the Research Expo, It highlights innovative research from madrasa to universities, showing Indonesia's growing academic strength and its commitment to developing world-class talent. The plus in Aicis Plus reflects a broader vision, where Islamic thought connects more deeply with science and society, creating a richer and more inclusive space for dialogue. This is more than a conference. It's a shared journey toward a fair, green, and hopeful world. 3 days of ideas.
Indonesia, who will now deliver a special address and officially open Aicis Plus 2025. So please join me in warmly welcoming Professor Dr. Phil Kamarudin Amin.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahil alimil khabir. Al-qail fi kitabihil mubin. A'udzu billahi minasy syaithanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wa'tasimu bihablillahi jami'an wa la tafarraqu. واذكروا نعمة الله عليكم إذ كنتم أعداء فألف بين قلوبكم فأصبحتم بنعمته إخوانا وكنتم على شفا حفرة من النار فأنقذكم منها كذلك يبين الله لكم آياته لعلكم تهتدون ولتكن منكم أمة يدعون إلى الخير ويأمرون بالمعروف وينهون عن المنكر وأولئك هم المفلحون صدق الله العظيم وهو أصدق القائلين ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين والشاكرين. Ladies and gentlemen, with no intention to negate and neglect the contribution of others, I would like to salute to officials at the ministry and all participants, ladies and gentlemen. Your Excellencies, distinguished speakers, rectors and scholars, academic leaders and honored guests, it is with profound respect for the pursuit of knowledge and a deep sense of responsibility toward our collective future that I stand here today before you. On behalf of the Ministry of Religious Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia and Universitas Islam International Indonesia, UIII, I extend a warm welcome to the Annual International Conference on Islam, Science and Society 2025. We are gathered here under the timely and critical theme, Islam, Eco-theology and Technological Transformation, Multidisciplinary Innovation for an Equitable and Sustainable Future. This convening represents a significant moment for scholarly engagement, one that demands our most rigorous intellectual effort and our deepest moral reflection. We find ourselves at a historical juncture characterized by unprecedented challenges. The accelerating climate crisis and the rapid ascendancy of artificial intelligence represent two defining phenomena of our age. These are not merely technical problems to be solved by engineers and scientists alone. As the esteemed philosopher of science, Syed Hussein Nasr compellingly argued that the environmental crisis is at its core a spiritual and intellectual crisis, a direct consequence of humanity's alienation from the transcendent principle that govern the natural order. Similarly, the transformation wrought by the technology demands more than regulatory frameworks. It requires a fundamental inquiry into the nature of humanity, ethics, and the very purpose of knowledge. In this context, the Islamic intellectual tradition is not an artifact to be preserved in libraries, but a living, dynamic resource that must be brought to bear on these pressing contemporary questions. The Ministry of Religious Affairs, in partnership with Indonesian Network of Islamic Universities, has supported Aicis for nearly a quarter century based on a foundational conviction. that faith and reason are not adversaries, but complementary faith to truth. Our role is to build the institutional and intellectual infrastructure that enables this synthesis. This commitment is manifested through three strategic pillars. First, the cultivation of robust research ecosystem within Indonesia's Islamic higher education system. We are decided to fostering academic environments where traditional Islamic sciences can engage in genuine dialogue with modern disciplines, from environmental science to computer ethics. Second, the promotion of a truly interdisciplinary methodology. The complex, wicked problems of sustainability and technological ethics cannot be addressed within the silo of individual disciplines. They figure the integrated insight of theology, law, philosophy, social science, and natural sciences. Third, the facilitation of global scholarly conversation. Aicis is not conceived as a platform where Indonesian scholars can engage with international peers as equal partners in the introduction of knowledge that serve all of humanity. Third, the great poet, philosopher Muhammad Iqbal, in his seminal work, The Reconstruction of Religious Thought in Islam, urged us to move beyond a static, passive relationship with tradition. He envisioned a dynamic intellectual project, one capable of capturing new domains of the human spirit. The 8 sub-themes of this conference represent precisely such new domains, and they demand nothing less than a reconstructive effort. Let me highlight the significance of these 8 sub-themes. First, ecotheology and environmental sustainability calls for a profound re-examination of religious thought in relation to environmental stewardship, asking how Islamic theology can inform us respond to eco-theological crisis. Second, current issues in science and technological transformation challenge us to critically examine the impact of scientific advancement and to develop ethical frameworks grounded in Islamic values. Third, Islamic law, social equality, and ecofeminism represents a pioneering effort to explore contemporary legal and social issues through the integrative lens of environmental ethics and gender justice. Fourth, revitalizing sustainable economic and equitable social welfare demands that we develop economic models that prioritize both ecological sustainability and social fairness. Fifth, decolonizing Islamic studies requires the courageous re-evaluations of our methodologies and perspectives, liberating Islamic scholarship from colonial epistemologies. Sixth, peace building, sustainable reconciliation, and humanitarian crisis addresses the urgent need for Islamic approaches to conflict resolution and humanitarian intervention in our troubled world. Seventh, investigating public health in Muslim society examines critical health issues through the dual lens of medical science and Islamic ethics, particularly relevant in the wake of global pandemics. Eighth, industrialization, innovation, and Islamic economic values seeks to harmonize technological progress with moral foundations of Islamic economics. Your Excellencies, the overarching theme of this conference, Islam, ecotheology, and technological transformation, has been translated into concrete action by the Ministry of Religious Affairs through Asta Protas, the 8 impact-driven priority programs we officially launched on the 6th of March 2025. The second pillar, strengthening ecotheology, is embodied in 1 million Matwa Trees movement. This initiative calls upon every religious institution, mosques, madrasas, kawa offices, pesantren, and Islamic universities to become living green spaces, not mere stone structures. This is not merely an environmental campaign, it is a reconstruction of ecotheological theology, positioning the Muslim community as true Khalifa fil ard. Inna aradna al-amana ala samawati wal ard wal jibal فأبين أن يحملنها وأشفقن منها وحملها الإنسان إنه كان ظلوما جهولا. Complementing this, at the Indonesia Sharia Economic Festival 2025, we emphasize that zakat and wakaf serve as a foundational pillars of Islamic social finance to realize sustainable welfare and social equity, directly aligning with this conference's fourth sub-theme, revitalizing sustainable economic and equitable social welfare. With the national potential of cash wakaf reaching trillions of rupiahs, if every Muslim contributes just 10,000 rupiah as an everlasting amal jariyah, we can run education and green infrastructure without the burden of the riba. The ministry, in collaboration with the Indonesian Wakaf Board, the Badan Wakaf Indonesia, is currently integrating zakat and wakaf data for productive, targeted distribution, ensuring the community assets are not only preserved but also grow in blessing. This represents the practical expression of an Islamic value-based economy capable of simultaneously addressing poverty, unemployment, and environmental degradation, a living model of rahmatan lil alamin, rooted in knowledge, faith, and innovation. Excellencies, in conclusion, the task before us is both immense and essential. We are not merely organizing an academic conference, we are participating in vital work of civilizational dialogue and intellectual renewal. The Ministry of Religious Affairs stands firmly behind this mission. Let the discussions over the coming days be characterized by a critical rigor and interdisciplinary courage and a profound sense of moral responsibility. May our collective efforts contribute to the emergence of a future that is not only technologically advanced, but also equitable, sustainable, and deeply human, a future that embodies an Islamic timeless message for mercy to all worlds, rahmatan lil alamin. I thank you for your attention and wish you a most productive and inspiring conference. Ladies and gentlemen, by reciting Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, I declare officially that this conference is open. وبالله التوفيق والسعادة والله الموفق إلى أقوم الطريق والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Your Excellency, may we ask you to remain on stage and please join Professor Dr. Phil Kamarudin Amin. On stage, Professor Dr. Jamhari,
Professor Dr. Amin Suyitno,
Professor Dr. Askal Salim, Secretary Directoral General of Islamic Education of Minister of Religious Affairs of Republic of Indonesia,
as well as Professor Dr. Pil Sahiron, the Director of Islamic Higher Education of Ministry of Religious Affairs.
And now we are going to witness together the ceremonial of the opening of Aicis Plus 2025 in 3, 2, 1. And with this, it is officially open, the 24th Annual International Conference on Islam, Science and Society, Aicis Plus 2025.
وبهذا تعلن رسميا انطلاقة فعالية مؤتمر ايتشيس بلس 2025 لتكون منبرا علميا رائدا يسهم بفاعلية في مواجهة التحديات العالمية والإنسانية التي نعيشها في عصرنا هذا.
now we are going to take a group photo. This is a very historical moment.
Yes.
And Aicis Plus 2025 will run from today until the 31st of October 2025 here at Universitas Islam Internasional Indonesia.
All right, Mbak Aisyah, we also would like to humbly invite to join us for a group photo pejabat eselon 1 Kementerian Agama, Kementerian Keuangan, Kementerian Lingkungan Hidup dan Kehutanan, dan Wakil Wali Kota Depok, Ketua Steering Committee, Organizing Committee, and all invited speakers. Please join us on the stage for a group photo. For our keynote speakers as well as invited speakers, please also join us on the stage.
As being addressed by Professor Dr. Jamhari, Director of Triple IU, about Aicis Plus 2025. It is a very special conference, especially this year. It aims to inspire transformative ideas that address the complexities of our shared global future. And 3, 2, 1. And thank you very much. After this, we will have a doorstop interview. So for our media partners and the press, you are welcome to engage in a brief doorstop interview with the designated dignitaries on the 5th floor. And once again, we would like to express our sincere gratitude to our esteemed guests for their gracious participation and insightful responses. And meanwhile, ladies and gentlemen, please remain on the hall because we will continue our event for today. This is only the beginning, and we just opened Aicis Plus 2025 officially, and it will be followed by conferences for 3 days until October 31st.
All right, we would like to remind all of the guests, ladies and gentlemen, once again, to please remain on the hall as we will proceed with the next agenda.
This will be very exciting, right?
Of course.
And can you also tell our guests here that are present in this hall what do we have for the next 3 days here at Aicis Plus 2025?
Yes, Mbak Aisyah, thank you so much. Of course, this is a part. Today is the first day of our Aicis Plus 2025. We going to have after this cultural performance, and after this we're going to listen to our first keynote speech as well.
Kepada para hadirin sekalian, diharapkan untuk tetap stay di lecture hall ini karena acara masih akan berlangsung.
Ada panel, Pak.
Dan sekarang, mari kita saksikan acara selanjutnya to celebrate Indonesia's rich diversity. Let us now enjoy a special performance, a medley of Nusantara traditional dances performed by students from Madrasah Alia 4, Jakarta.
Ini suara enggak?
And that's the special performance by Madrasah Alia 4 Jakarta to present Indonesia's rich diversity, and as well as Aicis Plus 2025 with the diverse topics that will be presented as well during the conference, the 3-day conference starting today. And we would like to also remind you again how the grand theme of this year's Aicis Plus 2025. We have 8 pillars. The first one is eco-theology and environmental sustainability. Also science and technological transformations, Islamic law, social equality and ecofeminism, sustainable economic systems and social welfare, industrialization, innovation, and Islamic economy values in a new era. Decolonializing Islamic studies and peace building and humanitarian crisis. Also, the last but not least, public health in Muslim societies. Islam, eco-theology, and technological transformation. That is the main theme for Aicis Plus 2025, the multidisciplinary innovations, and also for an equitable and sustainable future. Let us once again give a round of applause for Aicis Plus 2025. And now once again, we would like to present the choir Speranza Paduan Suara Perguruan Tinggi Jakarta.
I'm not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say, 'cause we don't want your broken hearts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say, no one will love you as you are. But I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for your glory. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna set afloat, gonna drown my mind. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come, and I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me. Oh, another round of bullets in my skin will fire away. 'Cause today I won't let the shame sink in. We are bursting through the barricades
So thank you very much. That's such a very wonderful performance. Once again by Speranza, Paduan Suara Perguruan Tinggi Jakarta. And now, this is the moment that we all have been waiting for. This is the start for Aicis Plus 2025 conference. We will have a special presentation on public health in Muslim societies.
Yes, exactly, Mbak Asia. This is a very special session. Will be delivered by a prominent professor in the field, Professor Mewita Paulina Budi Harsana, and she is going to present a very insightful and engaging presentation.
So for Professor Dr. Mewita Paulina Budi Harsana, MPA, PhD, the stage is yours.
Good morning. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I'd like to thank, the organizer, and I also want to welcome most of the participants of this important conference who have spent time to come here, and I hope you will enjoy Indonesia, Depok especially, while you are here. I'll begin with the title of my presentation is Public Health and Well-Being, an examination of ethical frameworks in Muslim societies in relation to universal framework. Slide. Yeah. Well, while waiting for our slides, I'll just start with, public health in Indonesia began in 1951 when the Bandung Plan meeting was held, and it gave birth to the development of community health centers, or we call it now Puskesmas, in 1968. It's a national network of community health centers at the sub-district level, focusing on health promotion and disease prevention, family planning, and immunization. The first faculty of public health was established in 1965 by a professor from University of Indonesia, Professor Mohtar. This became the first professional public health training program in Indonesia, which later mentoring 5 other universities across Indonesia between 1985 and 1990. Is there anybody, presenting my slide? let's continue. The health decentralization policy in Indonesia began in the beginning of year 2000. And in 2014, the Indonesian National Health Insurance Program began also to improve health equity in the country. Public health in Indonesia currently have to face triple burden of diseases. First, the communicable diseases, which remain to be endemic in this country. Second, non-communicable diseases like heart disease, stunting, diabetes mellitus, hypertension, depression are dominant as leading causes of death and disability. So the country has to suffer a lot, in terms of cost, because this is a not only double burden, but also triple burden. We are still not finished with communicable diseases, and at the same time, facing non-communicable diseases, mental health issues, and malnutrition issues. So, can I ask for the slides number 4? Slides number 4, please. Number 4? Okay, yeah. Finally, thank you. Yeah. So, in this slide, you can see that, the impact of health loss, fatal and non-fatal, because of these triple burden diseases are quite big. For the 280 million people, we are, facing lots of disability-adjusted life years because of communicable diseases, non-communicable diseases, and injuries. We have lots of injuries, including because of the traffic, accidental injuries, sports, and violence. So there are some violence cases here, not very well documented, but that also contributes to the deaths or near deaths of people here. That's what we call premature deaths and disability. As you know, when people are experiencing premature deaths, then our asset is depleted because we invested a lot on young people, and before they can produce, they face deaths. Public health is a discipline that, unlike medicine, bridging the health issues with other issues. That's why I'm standing here as a public health person because of that. So I'm also expecting that University Islam International Indonesia will be able to open another faculty of public health in this campus. Next. Here, public health is always related to prevention of diseases and health promotion. The basic principles is actually respecting individual rights to live, especially women, because we have a high mortality of mothers. That's the first, international indicator in public health. How good, how well a country is doing is by looking at the status of women's health. And our women's health is not so good. Yeah, I have to admit that. So we have done disease prevention and health promotion for 70 years almost. We are stuck. Yeah. We don't make too much progress anymore. So the new thing in public health is called health literacy. Just as in Islam, I remember 20, 30 years ago, I used to attend discussion called halaqah, with a small group of women discussing things. That's what health literacy is. That's a new concept in public health that we want to try. Using the public, using the women themselves, using you from Universitas Islam International, like students or leaders to also promote public health as a health literacy, like effort in the form of campaign, in the form of having discussion, or in the form of literature or curricula. The concept, next one, please. Next slide, yeah. This is the concept. If you look at the light colored circle, that's where health literacy is. That's where you see the process. It's no longer a public health person speaking in front of you like this, but it's more like a small discussion across multidisciplinary of fields. So you see that, health literacy is a process that's dynamic. It's not static, because as you see in the process, you start with access to information on health and medical. Access have to increase not only as access, but in terms of the level of understanding. How many women in Indonesia understand what's the meaning of being pregnant and having the risk of complication? That's one example. So after understanding, the person has to be able to appreciate or appraise, basically, whether I do understand, I do know the term, I understand what I have to do, I do open my voice, look and seek for treatment or not. Don't forget, there are some traditional beliefs that a woman cannot get out of the house without the permission of the husband, including when she's sick. So it's important to change this mindset in terms of appreciating the life of a woman. So when health literacy is a process, it's also easier to measure whether health promotion and disease prevention is absorbed, is understood by the people. So I hope this will affect, on the right side, you see the health outcome. The final outcome will be bringing people in Indonesia to have a better health status, especially the women. Now, looking at, next slide please, my task to compare public health universal ethics and Islamic Muslim public health ethics. Well, I have 4 pages of presentation in this, but basically, although there is a potential of conflict, but in general, there are lots of similarities. Action for universal framework, action benefit the entire population. And having justice and equity is the major proposed principle. But the most, difference between universal and Muslim is that the universal framework respect individual autonomy. which is in Muslim, it's more individual and communal. So it's a combined, like individual and community responsibility. But both said that we respect human life. We promote hygiene, healthy lifestyle, but of course in Muslim society, the ethic is based on the Quran and the Hadith, and ensuring services adhere to the Sharia law. A holistic view of health, spiritual, mental well-being, and physical health is basically the same with universal public health frameworks. Next. We also see that, public health emphasizes the collective good, balancing individual rights and the needs of the community also in the universal framework, which is maybe not as explicit as in the Muslim society ethical framework, but it's quite explicit also that public health universalists also respect both personal autonomy and the needs of community. Next slide. So basically, even in the Muslim society framework, we say that, there is one clause as one principle, the right to consent, the right for informed consent. This means everybody who visits facilities, either it's a hospital or a puskesmas or anything, has the right to ask to access information, the right information, and learn whether I do understand, can I act on it with my understanding? So that's something that actually both universal ethical framework and the Muslim society framework has to fight for, has to enhance and having a better level of understanding. Services should be proportional to the risk they address and use the least restrictive means necessary. We now have what we call the Jaminan Kesehatan Nasional, or the national health, social security, which actually eliminate the inequity across different socioeconomic class in Indonesia. So next, please. Both sides, the Muslim society and also the universal, public health ethical framework, recognize the importance of social determinants of health. I will show you that the next slide is basically, I check on the, next slide please. I check on the determinants of health in the Eastern Mediterranean. As you know, the next slide please. The next is this one, This slide show you that the Eastern Mediterranean countries are Cyprus, Greece, Turkey, Lebanon, Syria, Israel, Jordan, Palestine, Egypt, Saudi Arabia. Look here, the components also show that health equity is one very important component here. And in addition to conflict, because most of the areas are facing the conflict right now, they are putting almost the same principles like universal public health framework. So, next, please. What I want to evoke or call for your attention is this one. This is a new case in 2004, after the new millennium, basically. A woman of 29-year-old was brought to an emergency room in Baltimore, United States. She was having abdominal pain or pain in her tummy and fever, and the medical personnel who were in charge, examined her and said that, we must do some exploratory laparotomy. Exploratory laparotomy means open her abdomen, open it up and seek or search for something. This is a medical term, but for the patient, the woman doesn't understand this. And so she refused to have that. She refused to give consent to that. And finally, basically, not long after that, she died because she refused any surgical procedure. And it's only appendicitis. A very simple diagnosis, appendicitis. But she was not informed that it was appendicitis. She was informed that there is something, like inside your abdomen, and we have to open it up. So see, these things can happen in Indonesia also or in other developing countries. When you don't know, you just don't know. When you don't understand, you just don't understand. So this means the new public health direction is going to open up and invite other disciplines, including Islam teaching. Islamic teaching is one for Indonesia, a source of education. We have 87% of the total population are Islam followers. So somebody in this campus or in this environment in this country should do something, developing something. I was talking to one of the women leader here and asking, what about the gender, pusat gender, or pusat leadership in women here? I mean, a Center for Women's Leadership here. They can be a partner of the public health direction in the future, because we can have, small Holocausts, but, many all over across the country and, participate in this health literacy. Health literacy is basically a prescription to end confusion. It will be accelerating, it will be a good tool to accelerate disease prevention and health promotion. And at the end, will build a better health status for people in Indonesia. I hope you from other countries also can have this transformation. I will close my presentation asking for your support, and also you can share to your institution back home that, we in Jakarta, we in Indonesia is basically trying to change the new direction in the future by, promoting this health literacy. Everybody can participate. Other disciplines can participate. And everybody should be responsible also in saving, women in their family, in saving any family members in the household by participating in promoting health literacy. It's not that difficult. We can do it, and it's just, invoking leadership within each of you. Thank you for your attention, and congratulations to all of you who will follow this 3-day conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation, Professor Dr. Meiwita Paulina Budi Harsana, MBA, PhD. And now for the keynote speaker, Professor Farish A. Nur. Please welcome on stage to give the presentation.
I cannot see. Sudah. Image-nya udah.
Datanya udah masuk ya?
Ya.
Udah dikirim?
Ya.
Oke, Bapaknya ada ini nggak? Ada slide-nya nggak? Udah ada masuk di materi?
Ya.
Pak, cuman gambarnya aja
berhubung nggak ada masuk materi ya.
Ya,
Siap.
gambar, udah. Your Excellencies, Pak Rector, Deans, colleagues and friends, thank you very much for inviting me to take part in this event and to invite me to give this keynote that opens the conference. When I was asked to give this keynote, I warned the organizers that you're inviting a political historian who may or may not be the best person to raise certain questions. But since we are all adults here, I beg your indulgence because I feel that I need to be very candid and honest and frank about what I wish to say. I'd like to talk about the genealogy of Islamic studies itself. And when asked for a title for this talk, the title I proposed to them is Whether Islamic Studies, Can Islamic Studies Exceed the Limits that have been imposed on it? Can I ask, Stephen, if the image is up? Yes, is up? All right, good. You'll see before you a famous painting that I think many of you are familiar with. This is by Fausto Zonaro. It's a painting of Mehmed II entering the gates of Constantinople. I'm going to return to this painting again and again, and I want you to focus on it for a while. It's an arresting image, and it's meant to be arresting. It's a forceful image. And it's a painting that was produced in the 19th century, and remember, the event that Zonaro is capturing here had already occurred hundreds of years, centuries before that. So there's been a wide historical gap between the actual conquest of Constantinople and the depiction of it years later. Over hundreds of years, layers and layers and layers of meaning have been added to it, making it a very complex image. But it is an image that is arresting, and that is really what I want to talk about. Why Islamic studies? I see my friend Yanwa here from the Faculty of Islamic Studies. Yanwa, obat udah makan ya? Yeah, sudah ready. And I want to ask questions that I think are very important for all of us, scholars, and particularly those of us who are in the field of Islamic studies, myself included. I'm a political historian, but I write about the history of Islamic political movements here in Asia, Southeast Asia in particular. Why Islamic studies, and how did Islamic studies begin? Now, let us be clear about one thing. There is an enormous difference between Muslims studying Islam and Islam being studied. If we were to survey the historical landscape of the disciplines that we are familiar with in our universities, and Islamic studies is one of them. Remember, Islamic studies per se is not a discipline. It is a field where different disciplinary tools are brought to bear upon the subject: sociology, history, political economy, anthropology, and what have you. Now, if we were to look at the evolution of Islamic studies as we understand it today, as Islamic studies is taught in many universities in the north and in the south, then we can come to one simple conclusion. The way in which present-day Islamic studies is understood and how it's developed points to, whether we like it or not, its entanglement with the West. Islamic studies did not start in China. Did not start in Africa, did not start in Latin America, did not start in India. It started in the West. And there are reasons for this. There are reasons for this because of the long historical entanglement between Western Europe and its closest and oldest civilizational neighbor, which happens to be the Muslim world. But then from the outset, the study of Islam and the study of Muslims is one that is predicated upon a kind of dialectic, where Muslims and Islam plays a very specific function, role in the logic of identity building in the West. That is, Islam is the constitutive other to the West. And for this reason alone, we cannot think of Islamic studies, especially when it first began. We cannot think of Islamic studies as a field that is somehow apolitical and ahistorical. It has always been historical. It has always been political. The need to study Islam, the need to study Asia, Africa, stems from a 17th, 18th, 19th century preoccupation of coming to know the rest of the world as the West engages with the rest of the world. That necessarily locates the origins of Islamic studies in the West. And this is something that those of us who are in Islamic studies today, particularly those of us in the South, must be aware of. We cannot be blind to this. We cannot afford to be blind to this. So let's talk about what Islam is as far as Islamic studies is concerned. The fact that I use a particular pronoun, is already telling. My concern as a political historian that focuses mainly on 19th century colonial Southeast Asia is how epistemology, data gathering, and knowledge production have always been, whether we like it or not, inevitably, invariably implicated in the workings of power. As the West came to know Africa, as the West came to know Asia, as the West came to know the Muslim world, these regions were also constructed as things. They became objects. The objectification of Islam, the objectification of the Muslim world, renders the Muslim world a singularity. And those of us who are here in Southeast Asia should be fully aware of this. As I said earlier, my background is in colonial history, history of Southeast Asia in the 19th century. Many of us, particularly here in Java, should be familiar with this. There's a text that I think some of you might be familiar with, the famous book, The History of Java, written by Stanford Raffles. And this was a book that was the result of the accumulation of data over 6 years. 6 years. During the British occupation of Java between 1811 to 1816. The end result is a 2-volume work, The History of Java, published in 1817. Now, of course, you can approach this text from the lens of Asian studies or Southeast Asian studies or Indonesian studies and see this as one of the first early studies of Java and Javanese society and culture. But let me push you a bit further. You can also see this as one of the first instances of the study of Islam in Java and the study of Javanese Muslims, because that's what it is. Raffles, writing in the 19th century as a colonial administrator, needed to understand the nature of Islam among Javanese Muslims. And what do we get from this text? If you were to read closely, and most people talk about the history of Java without reading the history of Java. I know it's a big book, but it's important. It's an important text, especially for Indonesians. If you were to read this text closely, you may be surprised to find that Raffles was very much preoccupied with the question of Islam. Because this was one of the first attempts to understand Islam in Southeast Asia. And what Islam do we get? What is the Islam that we find in Raffles' History of Java? For a start, it's a monolithic Islam. It's a singular Islam. But it is also an Islam that Raffles diagnoses as the root cause of the historical degeneration of Javanese society. Simply put, why are Javanese backward? It's because they became Muslims. And this was one of the first studies of Islam. Yeah? And it's important for us who are in the domain of Islamic studies, many of us here, either directly or indirectly, who are in the domain of Islamic studies, to really question, the tools that we use in our own academic work and analysis. And I think this is incumbent upon all academics and scholars. I see a lot of my students up there. I hope that you'll be aware of the fact that the very tools that we use today that are reproduced in the post-colonial university, these are the same tools that at one point, 100 years ago, were used to understand societies and communities in Asia and Africa in order to colonize them. You cannot disentangle the history of political science from colonialism. You cannot disentangle the history of sociology and anthropology from colonialism. And you cannot disentangle the history of Islamic studies from colonialism. Because Islamic studies was precisely the tool used to understand Muslim societies in order to better govern and eventually colonize them too. So back to the image we see. Fausto Zonaro's painting of Mehmed II entering the gates of Constantinople. The image is arresting, but the image conveys already some of the themes that I'm talking about. It's a 19th century image of an event that took place several centuries before that. By this point, there is already a particular understanding of Islam and Muslim societies being developed, and the image that we see is monolithic. It is aggressive. This is an image of power. But it is also, one of the themes of the painting is also change, because it marks an important historical change when Byzantium was taken over by the Ottoman Empire. So what do these images, what do these narratives, what do these texts, what does Zonaro's painting and what does Raffles' book, The History of Java, give us? Yeah. Over time, they developed an understanding that there was a thing called Islam, and there is a community called Muslims. Now here, since we are at the beginning of a conference that brings together all the disciplines of social sciences, let's look at the state of social sciences today. And if we were to look at the state of social sciences today, you'll find that there have been so many advancements in the way in which other disciplines, from sociology, anthropology, cultural studies, media studies, literature, what have you, that point to advancements in the way that we understand the meaning of the human, of humanity itself. In the domain of social sciences, the cutting-edge theories of today point to an understanding of humanity that has gone beyond human itself. It's post-humanism that we're talking about, transhumanism, meta-humanism. And all these debates, from Donna Caraway's cyborg theory, looking at humanity enmeshed with technology, to the critical studies of media, optics, visuals of empire, and what have you, that complicate and complexify our understanding of what human beings are and human beings' entanglement with each other, with the environment, with economy, with politics. All of these developments point us to a new, more complex, more nuanced, more deep and plural understanding of humanity itself, except for one: Muslims. Muslims remain confined in the domain of Islamic studies. And the Muslim remains fixed, arrested, like the image. The power of arrest, which in philosophy we call epistemic arrest, this power, this ability to arrest, freeze, to totemize and totalize identities, is something that we in the domain of Islamic studies must be very sensitive to. So what are we doing today? Fast forward to the present. Where is the Muslim world? Where are Muslims? Don't point to a map, it's not a geographical question, yeah? But in the global frame of things, Islam and the Muslim world is the South. We are the South. An overwhelming majority of Muslims live in the developing world. That's our reality. We don't live in New York. Even though some of us might actually work in New York, Muslims do not live in New York, and Muslims are not placed in New York. We are still seen and cast as the constitutive other, and that in fact is our reality. What is the reality of the Muslim world today? It is the reality of the South fighting for or to regain some degree of autonomy and sovereignty in the face of overwhelming odds. These are our realities, and Islamic studies has to capture these realities. It has to capture these realities. Why is it that in the domain of Islamic studies, many of us, post-colonial historians, post-colonial scholars, all of us here, you, me, we are all post-colonial scholars. Why is it that across the post-colonial Muslim world, even though there have been many brave attempts, but by and large, we have not made significant advancements in answering the question that is being addressed by social sciences today? What is it to be human? What is the human being? Why is it that when we look at how Islamic studies has evolved over the past few decades, Islamic studies has been so often instrumentalized, and we know by whom. Yeah? Those of you who are in the domain of Islamic studies will undoubtedly be aware of the fact that the shifting contours and parameters of research have been determined not by Muslim societies, but by other external geographical factors, geopolitical factors that are beyond the control of Muslim societies. Post 9/11, Islamic studies became a security concern. And if we were to read so much of the stuff that has been produced post 9/11 on Islam and Muslim societies, we can see very clearly, the reworking of the same tropes, the same themes, the same modalities, data collecting, information gathering, identity building, and all with the intention of instrumentalizing this data to serve ends that are not necessarily academic, but more often than not political and security related. Islam has been pathologized. It has become problematized. Back to Zonaro. Some of you will recall that not too long ago, just a few years ago, perhaps a decade ago, there was a kind of mad fandom around Ibn Taymiyyah. Suddenly everybody wanted to read Ibn Taymiyyah. Why? Because the Western media told us that Ibn Taymiyyah was the father of Osama bin Laden. So suddenly there's this renewed interest. Everybody wants to be an expert on Ibn Taymiyyah. Why? To answer a problem. Why are Muslims radical? And it is shameful for us to admit the fact that many scholars in the Muslim world also took part in this. And this, again, like I said, points to our own subject positioning, that we as Muslim scholars and Muslim educational institutions are southern. We are part of the developing world, and we do not control this narrative until now. Like I said earlier, if you look at the wider field of the humanities as a whole, the very notion of humanity itself has been transcended. You know, we talk about post-humanism, transhumanism. Why is it that so few Muslim scholars have taken on board some of these ideas and concepts and utilized it themselves to complexify precisely this attempt to arrest Islam and to arrest Muslims, to deepen, complexify our understanding of who and what we are and what being a Muslim is? Has Islamic studies answered the question, what is it to be human? Well, let's do it now. Let's play with this idea. Let's play a bit, yeah? We already had some dancing, so now let's play a bit. Let's toy with this idea of post-humanism and transhumanism. Let me suggest an alternative. I would argue that since everyone is so interested in cool ideas, trendy ideas now, like post-humanism, transhumanism, well, perhaps Muslims are the only truly transhumanists and post-humanists today. Because if you believe the kind of stuff that has been produced by security agencies and security experts, yeah, then we Muslims, we are X-Men. Muslims have enormous powers, extraordinary powers that ordinary people don't have. It seems that Muslims can actually communicate with each other thousands of miles apart, even without using handphones. Because we are part of a hive mind. We have now become subjects of science fiction. When we toy with these ideas, what do? We perform that important interrogation, that interruption of this discourse to challenge these attempts to solidify us, compartmentalize us, box us in all the time. And this brings me to this particular conference, which I think is hugely important. It's hugely important because for once I'm thankful that we have the words Islamic studies, environment, and technology coupled together. Many of us here, I think, are veterans of the Islamic Studies conference circuit. We've been to so many of them, yeah? And invariably, many of these conferences, held either in the developed north or the developing south, will always present the Muslim subject as something particular. But that particularity is dangerous because it cuts us off from the realities that we inhabit today. Why is it so important to connect, to couple Islamic studies to things like environment and technology? Because these are our realities now. We are the South. The Muslim world is the South. And it is the South, it is Muslims, it is Asians, it is Africans, it is South Americans who bear the brunt and the biggest burden of both environmental degradation and the disruptions brought about by rapid expansion of technology and the emergence of what Varoufakis calls the new era of techno-feudalism, techno-oligarchs who are ruling the world. Why is it so important to recouple Islam with technology and Islam with environment? Because this is our reality today. If humanity is going to pay the price of the fourth post-industrial revolution, if humanity is going to pay the price of technology replacing human agency, human work, human labor, then that cost will be borne above all by the South, by the third world. And that means by Muslims. By Muslims, yeah. And so even if we want to somehow delude ourselves with the ideas that we are not touched by technology, we are touched by technology. Every Muslim in this room is touched by technology. We bemoan the fact that daily we are fed a steady diet of bad news about Islam. Well, that bad news simply points to the fact that we Muslims are now algorithms. That's what it is. The Muslim world today is an algorithm determined by the workings of big tech. If you wonder why, whenever you turn on your phone and you look at apps and you see nothing but images of Muslim countries in a state of chaos, countries being bombed, Muslims living in destitution and poverty and disempowerment, it's because of algorithms, not even human agency, but algorithms that determine that Muslim suffering is the best kind of morbid death pornography that sells. And we have become then the subjects, the commodified objects, of this whole virtual universe that we are creating. It is incumbent upon us in the South, in the developing world, to interrupt this debate and to ask serious questions about where technology is taking us, because we in the South, we in the developing world will pay the highest price. As powerful, rich countries move in the direction of further efficiency and economization and what have you, cross-cutting basically means, ending the need to outsource your labor to the South, to the third world, which means us. So we are directly involved. We have been reduced to algorithms. We are the subject of data munching and data crunching, done without our knowledge and sometimes without our consent. And my worry is that for too long in the domain of Islamic studies has neglected technology as if it was a separate concern, alien to the actual realities of Muslim societies. It is not. It's at the center of who and what we are today. If you attend many of these conferences on Islamic science and what have you, and I'm very, very sorry to say this, I don't mean to be disparaging here, but I've attended so many conferences on Islamic science or Islamic knowledge or Islamic civilization, and it's always the same. They are always predicated on past glories. We attend conferences about the thought of Ibn Arabi or Al-Ghazali or what have you, and I have no issues with that per se, but within that there is a kernel of doubt because it posits the idea that yes, quoting Raffles again, yes, you were great once, but no longer. No longer. And the importance of bringing technology back into our discussion on Islamic studies is that it has to again remind us of the fact that we are not alien to it, it impacts on us, and we now need to ask serious questions, including the question of why we in the South have been reduced to the status of passive consumers of technology rather than active producers of it. Now, many of us here are Asians, and I'm sure your parents told you nothing is free in life, yeah? So all these, our dependency on apps, our dependency on social media, our dependency now increasingly on AI and artificial intelligence, ChatGPT and what have you, all point to the fact that we are not at the forefront of producing it. Not only are Muslims not at the forefront, Africans are not at the forefront, South Americans are not at the forefront. The South is not at the forefront of technology. We are the passive recipients of it. And my apologies to those who may be offended by what I am going to say next, but I think we have to also admit that one of the reasons why so many of our attempts and efforts to remedying this situation has not borne any fruit is because of the collusion of our own states, southern governments, southern states that are working hand in glove with the power of big tech, big capital, big pharma to basically open the floodgates of this technology into our societies without us playing an effective part in it. The other theme that pops up in this conference, which I think is also timely, is the issue of environment. Because again, for us in the Muslim world, where is the Muslim world? We're in the South, we're in the developing world. The environment is a very real issue for us. Notwithstanding the fact that some people in Washington say that it's a hoax, the fact is global warming is real. And not only is it real, it bears now human costs that we can see. When pilgrims die when going to the pilgrimage, when Hindu pilgrims die while performing the Kumbh Mela in India, when European pilgrims die as they take the pilgrimage routes that dot the landscape of Spain and France, when Muslims die while going on Hajj, this brings home the very real fact that climate destruction is real. And not only does it bear a human cost for us, it will bear a political cost too. Climate warming and the rising of sea levels basically means that many countries in the Indo-Pacific basin are about to disappear over the next few decades. Just think about that, yeah? No foreign invading army can erase your islands, but climate warming will. This literally means the loss of territory. And who does this affect most? It affects us in the South, particularly Muslim countries, Indonesia, Maldives, Bangladesh, Muslim countries that may soon see parts of their own territory wiped off the map. So whether it's the environment or technology, these issues, I think, have to be at the center of the work that we do in the domain of Islamic studies. So to reiterate my point again, to go back to this image, we cannot escape the fact that when Islamic studies emerged, the emergence of Islamic studies, the development of Islamic studies, was necessarily part of the logic of empire and colonization in the past. We, as post-colonial scholars in the Muslim world, have inherited this. We have inherited tools that are tainted. But does this mean that we throw away the tools or abandon Islamic studies? No, we don't. What we need, therefore, is historical awareness, historical literacy and understanding that the very same tools that we use today in the understanding of our societies, in the management of our states and societies, our economies, all these tools have histories to them. We are academics, we are scholars in this room. Every academic has to be aware, painfully aware of the historical legacy that she or he inherits when you enter a domain, when you enter a discipline. Can there be room for change? I believe so. I believe so, and I believe actually that this conference marks a significant moment of rupture, of interruption, because, as was mentioned earlier by the minister, it's not an accident that we have decided to couple Islamic studies with environmental studies and technology. This marks an important shift from the older role of Islamic studies merely as a means of data collecting, where many post-colonial Muslim scholars were sadly simply performing the task of the native informer, writing about his society, studying his society, and for whom? For an audience that, unfortunately, in many cases, utilizes this information for other ends other than academic So I hope that the things that I've said today will perhaps spark a renewed interest, not only in Islamic studies per se, but why we in Islamic studies need to study Islamic studies. We need to study the history of our own field. We need to be aware of the fact that we did not simply walk into an arena that was already clearly demarcated. We cannot take Islamic studies as something that is already fixed and ontologically given, presented to us as a ready-made tool, simply turn on and use. We need to interrogate its foundations, how it started, why it assumed the shape that it has. We need to also be, I think, aware and responsible of our own responsibility, our own agency, in sometimes perpetuating tropes, theories, metaphors that reproduce these instances of arrest and fixity, and constantly use our expertise to remind ourselves, our students, our scholars, our societies, our publics of the fact that Islamic studies can be more than that. I would like to see Islamic studies evolve further, where Islamic studies becomes one of the domains where serious discussions of power, institutions, technology take place, so that we somehow, in a sense, I'm not saying de-Islamize Islamic studies, but rather complexify Islamic studies to the point where Islamic studies becomes the launchpad for many other reconstructive projects in the spirit of decolonization. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm aware that I've delayed your lunch by 10 minutes. Thank you very much for your attention, and I look forward to seeing all of you today.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Faris Ahmad Noor, for your very insightful presentations. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we have almost reached the end of the first day of Aicis Plus 2025. Before we proceed with next agenda, which is the plenary session by our invited speakers, let us take the moment to have a break until 1 p.m. The participants may proceed to the procession hall at the third floor east wing of the Rector building for the lunch, while the VVIP and VIP's guests to the fifth floor of the east wing of the Rector building.
And we remind all participants to return immediately to the lecture hall here after the break for the first plenary session. Thank you very much. Enjoy your lunch, and we'll be seeing you again soon.